Hello, welcome to Football Friday with Buddy Martin. Stay tuned. Coming up right now, we've got special guests coming your way. Paul Finebaum will be here. We've got Joe Williams, Franz Beard. It's going to be a good day. All right, stand by, folks. We'll get our open going here in just a second, and we will get on with the show. As I said, Paul Finebaum coming up in just a moment, along with Joe Williams. Got your picks out. Got my card ready to go here. So stay tuned for the program coming your way momentarily right here on the Buddy Martin Show.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
It's a good day. It's Friday morning, Football Friday. Boy, I love this Friday morning show. Good to be with you today. Thanks for joining us on the program. In just a moment, we'll have Paul Finebaum, who joins us from Starkville, Mississippi. Starkville, Mississippi. What's going on there? Something? Oh, yeah. Little football game there. And we will get his take on things. Paul, quite busy these days. Paul's going around the country at various and sundry places. He is in New York on Wednesdays, and then yesterday he was a thing for Mike Slive, the SEC commissioner, passed away. And then, of course, he is in Starkville today. The SEC, is that called SEC Nation? Will be there tomorrow for the game. A big game, ironically, two big little games this weekend. I know everybody wants Georgia and Alabama to be on national TV and all this sorts of stuff. But as you'll find out as we go through the schedule, the two games are really interesting. Florida, Mississippi State, we all know about that. We've kind of worn that out, but we'll get Paul's take on that game, where each coach stands. If Joe Morgan loses this game, he's in trouble. He's 0-2 in the SEC. Paul, on the other hand, Paul will point out what happens to Dan Mullen, who is, as Max Howell said last night on the show, Dan Mullen can't lose. Either the team he built wins or the team he's coaching wins. So from that standpoint, it's good. So that's coming up. Then we'll do our weekly picks. I'm making a comeback, folks. Here's my card from the Quarterback Club. I've got a few picks here for you tonight. I'm gonna get it right this weekend. We're wagering real money this year, meaning mythical money, not real money. I would never wager real money on my knowledge of betting on football. That would be a bad mistake. But mythical dollars. Doing really good with Joe Williams. Got to get his tally out here and look at it. And then not doing so good at one at the Quarterback Club. I gave you those last night. So as we wait for that, and I think Joe Williams, as we speak, just give me 1 second while I get my board here. Joe Williams is at the airport in Denver with his son, about to leave for Las Vegas, a football betting weekend. Now, my friends go to Vegas, and they love it, football weekends, et cetera, but by the same token, they don't always do great, but certainly they're good enough to keep going back, so obviously they're liking it. The situation will be a lot of football tomorrow to watch, a lot of games to watch. Which one will you be watching, by the way? I certainly will have a whole day of it tomorrow. And, by the way, some golf. Really enjoyed watching the Ryder Cup. You know I like golf. watching the Ryder Cup and watching what happened. The Americans taking the lead in the morning and 3-1, and I have not watched actually since that time, so I want to wait and tape it after that. So anyway, that's what's going on with me, what's going on with you. I see you're weighing in today. Here's Jim Harris has a little hello. Hello, Jim. How are you? We expect this program probably not to reach a lot of people on the first run, but later today, people will tune it in as we share. Be sure and like and share because this program is out of its time zone. Usually we're at 9 o'clock at night. Today, we're obviously in a different zone. So check that out. And also, dilly dilly to you, David, although it's a little early for a dilly dilly today. Appreciate the heads up. Let me, are you getting a lot of spam calls? I've got so many spam calls here, it's ridiculous. I was getting to a point where it's about 12 a day. How many do you get? Because it's not a pretty sight sometimes. So, all right, so we're going to do this. We're going to go ahead and take a little break, and then we'll bear down on the program. We've got Paul Finebaum standing by in the green room. We don't really have a green room. We have a red room or a orange and blue room. We just got Paul in Starkville via Skype. We'll bring him to you in a moment and talk about the games of the week, etc. Meanwhile, let's do this. Let's see if we can hear. By the way, just so you know, next week is going to be the big week for lots of us, not the least of which is Florida Beach Mississippi State has LSU coming to town. The Tigers could be undefeated if they beat, as expected, LSU this week. I mean, Ole Miss this weekend. That once great classic Ole Miss LSU. LSU favored by 12 to do that. So LSU coming to town next week, probably undefeated and actually top 10 ranked. Florida coming out of it, if they win, with a chance to make a little noise in the SEC. It's going to be a huge week. And the brand new shirts will be here Monday. Tony's on vacation from All Far Sportswear. He texted me and said, I got them. I have them Monday. I'll have them on the program. And we will have a small tailgate in addition to whatever Bubba's doing. We're doing a small tailgate for the elites. We'll have more news on that for you folks who belong to the elites a little later on. It's going to be a great week. It's going to be a great, fun week to celebrate football, which is what we do here on the show. Stand by in a minute. Paul Finebaum will be here to talk about what's new in his world. There you have a little information there on our sponsor, All Far Sportswear. This is just a link, which is where you can go and get your shirts. You can pre-order them. That's not the link that will get you the order. That is a link that you'll need to know about. Just look at it, check it out. We'll move the Football Friday thing off for a minute, let you see what's going on there. And you're going to love the Circle 15 shirts celebrating Tim Tebow, and also the G&K shirts. So stay tuned for that. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about football. I'm excited to have Finebauum on the show. We'll have more on the shirts and hear from our sponsor. Let's go out now to Mr. Finebauum and see what he's up to these days and check out where he's broadcasting from today. All right? Time now to go out to the hotline and talk to a man who is just about as busy as a person could be, but it's all good. Paul Finebaum, who may be in New York, who may be in Starkville, who may be next door. I do not know. I just know I've got him on the line. I'm glad to have him on a Football Friday. Although I got to say, Paul, it's a little bit of a golf Friday, too, because the Ryder Cup is on, and I do love the Ryder Cup. How you doing, pal?
I am doing great. I am not in New York. I'm in the 662. And if Dan Mullen was listening on the way to the airport, that's probably the area code still on his cell phone.
I didn't know they had a Hilton there.
It is, listen, there's nothing like waking up in Starkville, Mississippi, buddy.
Well, Dan had a few things to say about that earlier in the week, and he didn't say it disparagingly, but he talked about the fact that how life was different for he and Megan. He said a lot of online shopping, in Starkville, but he loves, he loves the people,
It's the online capital of the world that you talk with.
There you go. So you're in Starkville. I'm glad somebody is. It looks like some of the other people forgot there was a game there on Saturday night, and maybe the most interesting games of all the games. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Although South Carolina, Kentucky gets my attention as well. I'm sure it does of you. So So take me on this journey and tell me about this. How does it feel to be sitting next to a legend on Saturday? Because yesterday was the 10th anniversary of Tim Tebow's Promise. I know you talked about it. What's that going to be like on the program?
You know, buddy, I've had the fortune in my career of being around some interesting people. I started, as you know, covering Bear Bryant, and now as a geezer, I say to myself, man, I wish I had just luxuriated every second of that. But I did. I mean, I knew it was special, and I feel the same way about Tim. You're never just sitting there like this is pedestrian work, because you know who he is. Because I've been with him. I've been with him all over the country. I've seen the reaction of people of all walks of life. It never ends. Last week, my own nephew came to our show in Alabama, and you know, it's the first thing I did. You got to get a picture with Tim. I mean, there's me saying that because I know the picture to his mom and dad, my in-law, my brother-in-law, and sister-in-law of me is not going to go very far, but the Tebow picture will be disseminated everywhere, and I know that next week is going to be pretty unbelievable. I know the anniversary this week of the Promise, and the next week with the retiring. It's quite a special time to be around Tim Tebow's orbit.
And the Ring of Honor all happening one time. So I go back on it, and my son Brendan, who was there as I was for the Promise, standing 10 feet away, he shot video of that, and he didn't ever use it until about 2 months ago. The original organic video of the thing, and he put it up online, and it went crazy on our website, our Facebook page. I think somewhere around 50,000 hits or something, because it still resonates. Because after all, Paul, this is University of Florida's Newt Rockne win one for the Timmer movie.
No, there's no doubt, and I remember where I was. I was at a wedding that day in Birmingham. Of all things, one of my colleagues got married on a football Saturday, which I'm still perplexed about. Wow. He is married. He's still married though, so I'm not going to be too critical. And we got in the car, and I mean, at the service, he started hearing with Ole Miss in Florida. And then heard about it on the way home, and it's just one of those indelible moments. But I think it's bigger because you got a lot of young people now who were 7 and 8 at the time, and now they're going, man, that's pretty cool. The old guy Tim Tebow did that. So it's a remarkable world, and listen, you know how I feel about Tim, and you know how everyone feels about him.
Where did the 10 years go? I was talking to a guy yesterday from Gatorbait Magazine, Zach Abolverdi, and I was telling him I realized he was just in high school when it happened. He was in Gainesville. He remembered it, but that 10-year gap is that does do. Well, anyway, it'll be fun, and I know you'll be sitting right there as a seatmate with Tim, and good luck, and tell Tim that the old broken-down sports writer back in Ocala thinks of him often, which is even the best. So
let me write that down so I can remember, buddy.
Remember this. We've got some games to talk about here this weekend. It's not a marquee weekend for games, but there are a couple I wanted to ask you about. You talked about something that's an interesting guest on your show this week, the Paul Finebaum show. And one game that's totally overlooked, and you and I, for historical reasons, will least appreciate LSU Ole Miss. Ole Miss a 12-point underdog to LSU, and that once proud series of the Billy Cannon fame. What was it, 1959? It's pretty much vanished for most people, but this is still a real big rivalry down there, Paul, isn't it?
No, it is. I covered LSU as my first job, and I went to that game, and it was 20 years later, I believe. In fact, yeah, it's hard to believe now. And it's a special rivalry, and I think it still matters to the over 50 set young people. Again, it's hard for them to appreciate something like this because Ole Miss, Alabama, is really the game that you set your social calendar around in Oxford. And I was there 2 weeks ago, so I can attest to that. But this game has great history, and we see less and less of that in the new world order of college football, buddy. But first time I ever interviewed Billy Cannon, I was stuttering and stumbling, and I got to know Paul Dietzel, who was the coach at the time. And that Yeah, I mean, LSU's won championships since then. They won 2, but that's still the moment that most people over a certain age live by. And what was so amazing is that LSU lost the next week. It did not hold up, but for at least that moment in time, and that's you and I being grizzled sports writers. That's how you remember stuff. But you remember and where you were.
That's a top 5 all-time play, that punt return. I think I heard it on the radio, and it wasn't John Ferguson who called it. It was your other friend. I know you talked about it on there. But anyway, we digress to All Geezer Radio, which is what we're doing now on the show. That's okay.
By the way, it's keeping some of us in business.
Exactly. Well, I love the Grambling Rice SEC story piece. It was much better than I thought. I learned a lot about Grambling Rice. And not to divert back, I didn't even know he was born in 1880, by the way. He is a geezer, or was. And that was quite interesting, and I know if you haven't seen it, be sure and watch it. I think you'll like it. All right, let's get to the game so we can get you out of here. I know lots are going on there at the hotel in Starkville. There's probably a parade outside and all that.
There's a parade going on right now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, so let's talk about Kentucky and South Carolina. You've kind of adopted Kentucky and a team. I say adopted, but you appreciated Kentucky and Mark Stoops a long time ago, and I think you're being rewarded by seeing a well-coached team. Kentucky is favored in this game. Excuse me, is underdog. I think to South Carolina 1.5. Is that correct, or do I have it backwards? I've forgotten. I'll look it up.
I think it's pretty close. Yeah. What's interesting? I was in Birmingham Thursday night at an event honoring Commissioner Slive, and John Calipari was there, and I walked up to him. I said, "Hey, how you feel being the other coach at Kentucky?" And he broke out laughing. And, he just talked to. He said, he said people forget. The guy's been there 6 years, he made the point that you've heard me make a couple of times that any other place, including Florida, by the way, he would have been fired. And we still don't have the final chapter of how this is going to work out. But I do know for at least this moment in time, this football, Kentucky has shown its worth in football. And I always hear when I go to Lexington, we love football here, but you never really have evidence of it. But you do now, and I think tomorrow night is critical. It's not a game the nation really cares about. Quite frankly, I'm not sure it's a game that many people in the SEC care about, because it's kind of an off-Broadway game. But a win here it gives them more gas, and their schedule really is tricky. And we celebrated them this week, because I'm not sure the life expectancy with A&M and certainly Georgia looming. But if they can somehow get to Georgia undefeated on November 3rd, that's going to be the game of the year that no one saw coming.
Kentucky, of course, is a 1.5 point favorite at home. And by the way, I'm on your bandwagon with Benny Snell, but I've got a better name for it. Give him hell, Snell. Remember that from Charlie Pelt?
I do. Listen, I'm not the complete idiot. I mean, I have a hard time believing that they'll finish this job, but these are stories that you live for. And to see a fan base that excited is pretty cool.
Yeah. All right, now we get around to the game that we care about down here in Florida and probably in Mississippi. Some calling it the biggest game ever in Starkville. And my friend out there, Max Howell, and others talking about what's going on there. Every hotel west of the Mississippi is filled up naturally, and some east. And so this game now is big, or bigger than we thought maybe it would be, because more than Dan Mullen coming home, it's also a game of significance for both teams. Whoever wins this game now would be in that first tier, not as good as Alabama or Georgia, but certainly second best is not a bad place to be, as you pointed out the other day in your program. Who's going to play for second? So tell me about Dan Mullen. You were on the Dan Mullen train a long time ago. You were touting him to me 2 years ago, and who knew he'd be the Florida coach one day? So now you have Dan Mullen going on with all that going on, and you have Joe Moorhead, who's not having an easy time of it, whose team kind of, I won't say laid down, but didn't play very well against Kentucky. What is your feeling about this game, and about, first of all, Mullen, and secondly, about the program that Mullen built at Mississippi State?
What's so interesting is how the dynamics of this game has changed, buddy. A week ago, before Tennessee, this looked like it could be Dan Mullen's Waterloo. Now I'm going to change that. This is what I love about being a commentator. Now it's still Moorhead's, because Mullen bought himself some time. And, Tennessee matters. If he loses this game, it hurts. But you turn around, you have LSU. There's always some place to pick it back up again. For Moorhead, this is personal in the sense that fans here respect and honor Mullen, but you know what happens when you leave, especially after you spent the last 3 years telling people you weren't going to leave. And I hear that. I'm around state people a decent amount, and it's really very personal to them, and it's also critical to them because you can't have a good season in the SEC West if you're 2 down and your 2 losses have been to the SEC East, and that's before you even see LSU, Auburn, and Alabama, as well as Texas A&M. I mean, the schedule, which we thought this was a 10-win season, suddenly becomes a nightmare for a new coach that some still wonder, was he the right choice? So that's kind of how you frame it. What Mullen did for this program is incalculable. It's self-explanatory. I think it was one of the great building jobs that I've seen, and some will say, well, he didn't complete the deal. He didn't beat Alabama. Well, buddy, who has? Okay.
Sure. Good point. All right, now the remaining minute, I got to talk about you and the Brooklyn Bridge and being in New York City. And as that old Picante, whatever it was, commercial, New York City. How's it feel up there, man, to be doing that show on Wednesdays? And your travel life has been a little hectic. Talk about what it's like being in the Big Apple. Yeah, first of all, there won't be any shortage of frequent flyer miles when the season ends for my wife. It's me. I am not a New Yorker, although I am only person in my family not born in New York. So working in New York one day a week is special. I do it for those who watch the show and listen and don't understand it. I do all the ESPN morning shows up there, Get Up with Greenberg and First Take and all the other stuff. I mean, the other day where I'm sitting there getting ready to go on the show, and Kevin Hart walks in. He's a comedian. He's got a movie out today, and he's shaking hands with me, and I'm like going, "How does this guy know me?" Then you forget you were just on television, and he's sitting in the green room. And I mean, you get that in New York. You don't get that in our normal studio setting. So there is that element. And buddy, the Brooklyn Bridge is right behind us. You look out to the left if you're sitting in the studio, and you're staring straight into the Statue of Liberty. And yeah, listen. It's pretty cool to see that every day. It certainly is majestic, and it's great to see my old hometown. And they love you in New York; they'll love you forever. That's for sure. And look forward to seeing the program there. You're right; you never know who's going to go in the front door. You can sit down in the bar and have free movie stars walk by you before you even know it. So Paul, listen, have a great weekend and Stark Vegas. Looking forward to the program next week. And what people say about it. There's going to be some decisions made about a few things this weekend, and we'll see who comes out of these 2 big games. Yeah, I'll tell you, we never announced SEC Nation in advance, buddy. But I'll see you next week. Wow, I guess that must have something to do with you coming to another Ville, but not Starkville, right? I think so. All right, Paul. Paul Finebaum, the Paul Finebaum Show, ESC's SEC Network. Paul, thanks so much, buddy. Okay, so there you have it. By breaking the news that SEC Nation with Laura and the whole team, Tim, will be in Gainesville next week. So, well, it'd be nice to get Paul for a minute, but I don't think that'll be available for any tailgates. But nice to talk to Paul. Appreciate him sharing a little time with us. It's difficult to do these days for him. Checking in with you folks. Thanks very much for your comments. I got a couple questions about the hat. I'm glad thank you, John. The hat is straight out of All Florida Sportswear. In fact, I talked to Tony yesterday, day before yesterday on vacation. He said, which ones do you like? I picked out 2 or 3 out of the catalog, which he's going to send me, and I'll show them to you. Your choice. But if you want to buy a hat, go to support someone who supports the show, one of our sponsors, All Florida Sportswear. Good bunch of people. They're members of the elite. They come to the games, their tailgates, and Tony and they actually do a terrific job. So thank you for that very much. And good evening, good morning. I used to say good evening to Jason Bruton from Jacksonville. I do see Damian Pierce getting more action, although this week may be a little bit tough because of the fact the game plan will be probably more on speed. So, you're right, Jack Campbell. Tebow being inducted in the Ring of Honor certainly had to be in Gainesville, and good time for Tim. excited for Tim. That's really wonderful. We were talking last night about that, as you heard Paul's comments about it. Tim has done a phenomenal job with his life. Okay, we'll do this. We got Joe Williams standing by with his red-hot picks. He's not beating me by that much, by the way. I just want you to know I'm hanging right in there with Joe. We had started the season with $10,000. $10,000. Okay, so they were mythical, but we'll see how our picks turned out and where we stand. Some people just got so upset about the fact that we were kicking butt that they dropped out of the race. No names mentioned. We'll get into some game plan stuff later on, Kyle, talking about what will happen. We talked about it last night with the coach. The people agree with me on what's going to happen in the game plan. We'll see. But first, let's take a look at some of these wonderful shirts you can order at All Florida Sportswear. Come back, and we'll talk to Joe. Once again, here are some women's stuff. You'll see the link up there to go to All Florida Sportswear. You can get all kinds of gear there. So check them out. Appreciate very much what Tony is doing for us there at All Florida Sports. And coming up in just a second will be again, but as good as it was. All right. We're going to tell you a little bit about Mark's Prime, which I would like to go there tonight. I'm not sure if our dinner partners can do it or not, but boy, I love this food there. I love this place. This is really, to be honest with you, I mean, I have a lot of nice restaurants I go to, but this really is probably my favorite. And because of the quality of the food, the atmosphere, and you go into a really big time restaurant, it's a little higher than usual, obviously, but I don't mind paying for a really good meal. You can see just one example of their fresh seafood and their really good meat at Mark's Prime Steakhouse and Seafood. 2 locations to serve you, one in Gainesville and one in Ocala, with a complimentary parking in both. They do a really great job of creating an experience for you for your meal that you walk away with, and you'll feel like you have you please your palate and you soothe your soul and you feel good about yourself. And because they have the best beef and the freshest seafood, the premium wines, and I love their spinach, sauteed spinach. When you go there, tell them Buddy told you to ask for the sauteed spinach. Really good. So check them out. Go online to marksprimesteakhouse.com and or call them in Ocala for reservations. They're hard to get into, so make your reservation in advance. Ocala 352-336-0077. Excuse me, that's Gainesville 336-0077. Both of them 352. Ocala is 352-402-0097. And to find out why I just love Mark's Steakhouse, I love the food, love the people. Check it out. All right. All right. So let's do this. Let's see if we can get a hold of the hitman, as Rebecca says just now, and see if he's standing by at the airport in Denver to give us his wisdom on how to win some money this weekend. He's headed to Las Vegas, and he's going out to wager a couple of bob. All right, so we'll see. We're trying to reach Joe now. How's your card going? How are your picks? I'll tell you about mine in just a minute. And there you go. Football Friday, the hitman, Joe Williams, on the case, ready to go. Hey, dude, you're packing up and headed to Vegas.
Is it a happy bunch of Gators down there?
Well, right now it is, Joe, because they feel like they got a shot, you know? Got a shot. That's all you can ask for. A couple of weeks ago, maybe not so much, but right now, going into Starkville, they got a shot. That's all you can ask, right?
Cowbells and all, huh?
Cowbells and all. I got a big kick out of James Bates, some of the cowbells he painted for the occasion, all the favorite Gators who were Mississippians, and he showed us to it. So, Joe, tell us what you're doing right now. Hotline Central, right to Football Friday. Joe, on the case, got a bunch of good picks, got a bag full of money going to Las Vegas. Who else going to Vegas, Joe?
Well, I'm having to travel with my personal physician and my son.
Well, that's not a bad group.
And that's a pretty good trio.
I don't know your physician, but I do know Bert, and you're in good company with Bert. That's all I got to say.
That's exactly right.
Now, do you have all your money in the bag and you're taking it with you, or you go up there? How do you do this? You just go up and say, Mr. Williams, welcome to the whale room. We know you. You're big around here. Come on back and wager some money on some football. How's it work?
Over the years, I've developed a real close association with plastic. And about the only problem with that is once the smoke clears and all the shouting's over, you got to figure out how you pay for it.
There you go. That is a little problem, isn't it? It is a little problem, but it sounds like a fun weekend. You're doing pretty good on your picks, and I've got a tally here in a minute. We'll talk about. But before we get into the wagering part of this, and what have you, let's talk about the football season as it is unfolding. Not a lot of surprises so far. A few with some of the transfers and the most recently Kelly Bryant and what have you. But the two teams up there in the SEC are the same ones before, and those are the guys that are, Ohio State looks good again, as we'll talk about later in our picks. So how do you think this football season is unfolding, Joe?
Well, I think the two teams right now that look to be maybe a little bit above everybody else would be Alabama and Ohio State. I believe that Clemson, with the quarterback situation, that improves their chances. And I think now, as they go forward, that Clemson will be very hard to deal with because Lawrence is a much superior passer, and will make Clemson a much better football team, offensively than what they were, because they were very one-dimensional with Kelly Bryant. I feel bad for him, in terms of he's been around Clemson for a long time, and you kind of wait your turn. He played behind Deshaun Watson, all that. But I mean, he's had a good career, played on a national championship team, and I don't know where he's going to end up. But I like Clemson's chances now much better after this move has been made. They'll probably be up there with Ohio State and Alabama. I think Georgia has tailed off a little bit. I can't rightly put my finger on it, but I wasn't impressed with the way they played Missouri. And we'll see how they come along. Notre Dame, of course, is the sad story because, as we know, Notre Dame, they basically get grandfathered into just about anything. And they're playing Stanford this week. And after they dispose of Stanford, which I don't have any doubt that they will.
No, not so fast, my friend. Not so fast, my friend.
Well, let me finish now.
Well, okay.
I'm your guest.
Just don't start. Just don't start making up stuff, okay? Now I'm gonna call you out on that, pal. So go ahead.
Well, you've always called me out.
Stick to the facts, okay?
Right.
Go ahead.
You interrupt it. What you
yes,
do
I
is
will.
basically interrupt.
Interrupt the flow when I go on your show and you're constantly interrupting me, it cuts both ways, pal. Just remember that. Now go ahead let's get to the SEC, which is what we care about down there.
Notre Dame's going to be favored in every game they play, which means that Notre Dame's going to take one of the spots that's always allocated. The SEC always gets two in. And
not always, but usually, yeah.
Yeah. And you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And hey, listen, and I'm for that. The best football teams are in the SEC year in and year out.
You're an SEC guy,
I'm not playing any games here on that.
Yeah,
but Notre Dame is sadly going to go undefeated, and they're going to take one of those spots.
You're just a happy guy right now because Nebraska is so terrible. Any season where Nebraska hasn't won a game,
buddy, they've been down so long. It's no fun to pick on them anymore.
Oh, come on now! You love it. You know you love. What are you talking about?
No, it's not any fun when they're down like this.
Yeah.
When they're not even relevant anymore.
Yeah.
It's not any fun. College football is not as much fun.
Yeah.
Because you look forward to seeing them get beat, seeing those fans knocked off their red high horses.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's just a matter. Although I do believe that Nebraska will upset Purdue this week. Right. And I'm sad to report that, but I believe that's going to happen. Anyway, that's where I see college football. Alabama, then Ohio State, and then probably Clemson.
Okay.
That's kind of and then Notre Dame.
Okay, I need to know how to make some money. Okay. Now let me bring you up to speed. I'll give you the liberties first. We'll just picking your best game out. I'll tell you where we stand on our picks, and we'll go from there. So how do you want to do it? You want to just give me your favorite game of the week, or you want to go right into our picks this weekend?
Let's just go ahead with your picks.
All right, so here's where we stand, Joe. We started out the year with $10,000 apiece, right?
I believe that's right.
You'd like to know where you stand right now?
Go ahead, tell everybody.
$200 behind me. I have 12,200. You have 12,000 right now. So
okay.
We got your picks.
We're on the plus side.
Yeah, well, no, we're both doing well in that regard. I'm just to be on the same page with you, the great handicapper that you are. I feel honored. But so let's pick out a few games here. On your show, we made a couple of picks, but let's go to my show and produce some picks. I don't want to care about picking some of those games. All right, and I'm going to ask you a lot about teams that we care about down here. So here's the deal. I'll go ahead with the game that you mentioned because I know we've already talked about it. Stanford at Notre Dame. Notre Dame favored by 5.5 points. I'm going to tell you right now, I like Stanford that game, and I know what we're wagering, but I'm going to go ahead and put $500 on this game, and I'm taking Stanford in the points.
You know, normally I would too, buddy. I'm a little concerned about their defense. I don't like this game. This number has gone up. It started out about 3 or 3.5, and it keeps climbing. I'm going to go the other way with Notre Dame, but I'm only going to go $400 or $500 on Notre Dame.
Well, I said 500, so we do the same. So you say Notre Dame,
well, I was going to put too large on it until the
really
started climbing.
Really. All right, so
I like Notre Dame. I like Notre Dame to win the game a lot.
All right, so Joe likes.
I don't see any scenario with Stanford winning this football game, other than the standard, turn it over 5 times, fluky stuff like that. It always seems to happen in Texas. But other than that, I don't see it happening.
Did you see it last weekend when they were down and they came back and won the game? You didn't see that either, I guess. So my eyes are telling me that Stanford's a better team than people realize. They got to run more plays. They don't run enough. They only get only Florida runs fewer plays a game. They got to get more plays. All right, Joe, Ohio State at Penn State. Penn State, a 3.5 point favorite. The whiteout is on. Urban Meyer's bringing the Buckeyes in there. Who do you like, Joe?
Well, I a slight lean to Ohio State here. I don't like the fact that they're playing Trace McSorley and they're playing on the road. 3.5. I think Ohio State is a better football team.
Yeah.
I would like Ohio State by a touchdown. If they were on a neutral site.
Yep.
But they're playing at Penn State, and the fact that Trace McSorley, we all will agree, even though he plays for one of those teams up north, he's still a very fine player, and he's a dangerous player. And he extend plays with his feet. He can do just about everything. But he was a safety. He was being recruited by everybody as a safety when he was coming out of high school.
Yeah, he's a good college quarterback. Yeah, he's a good college quarterback. And so how much?
I'm going to go. But to answer your question, I'm going Ohio State. And I'm going 500 on Ohio State.
Okay, you and I are thinking alike. That's bad. I got both the same thing.
Who's next?
500 on the Buckeyes. All right, your favorite team, Texas. Texas at K-State. K-State, I put this in there for you. I don't like the game. K-State gets 9 points. How do you like your Longhorns?
Yeah, Texas should not be favored by 9 on the road against anybody until they prove it. I'm going 500 on Kansas State.
Stop it now. You're copying my card.
Well, I'm just telling you.
All right, I'm going to go. I'm only going to go
miles apart. I can't see your card.
All right, I'm going to go 300 only, and I'm going to take K-State as well. So now down to the games that matter. 2 games, okay? This is a sneaky, interesting game. South Carolina at Kentucky. Kentucky is giving up 1.5 points. This is going to be an interesting game because it's going to have a lot to do with Florida in terms of the second best team in the East. Who you like?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, this game looks like a trap. That point spread is a trap. To me, it's a trap. I can almost guarantee South Carolina will win this game because the point spread. Kentucky, why aren't they 6-point favorites at home after what they did against Mississippi State, against South Carolina, who was a run-of-the-mill, middling, SEC team? Why is Kentucky only a 1.5 point favorite? Ask yourself that question. Does that make sense to you?
Coming off a big win, we had something to do with it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I can almost. I'm going to say me. The point spread almost guarantees you South Carolina is going to win that game.
Really? So how much you putting on?
Well, I'm not putting on anything. I'm going to pass it. It's a trap.
You can't. You don't pass these games. You cannot pass these games. You have to bet them.
All right, I bet $100 then on South Carolina.
Okay, this is where I pick up ground on
$100 on South Carolina. I don't have any. It's a game you just stay away from. The number is fishy. Kentucky's a better team, and they ought to be favored by a touchdown. They're playing at home. It's all working for them, and I just don't trust the game. There's games like that come along, buddy. You got to go with your gut here.
I'm going to take you to school. I'm going to take you to school. I don't get a chance to do this very often. Mark this one down. You're wrong. Kentucky can lay the 1.5. I'm putting $500 on the Red Hot Wildcats and Benny Snell. So we're going. This is where this.
Buddy, listen. Let me tell you something. I was getting ready to put a couple of large on Kentucky till I saw that point spread.
Yeah. Well, Joe, do me a favor.
We'll revisit this conversation next week.
You owe me $10 from 5 years ago. So put $5 in Vegas on Kentucky and lay the points for me. Would you please?
I'll be glad to, and I'll airmail the winnings.
Please do, and overnight them if you would. Joe, last game, we got about a minute and a half to spend on the big game here. Florida, Mississippi State. The Gators are a 7.5-point underdog going into the Starkville. They're calling it the biggest game in the history of Mississippi State. We know that why Mississippi State should be favored. The defensive line, they got 2 number 1 picks there. We know about Nick Fitzgerald. The Gators are emerging. Is this one where you take a flyer and take the points, or are you going to go Mississippi State here?
The Gators are emerging. This is the biggest game at Mississippi State. Are you kidding me? With Florida coming in, a so-so Florida team? See, and we go right back to the number. See, here's the number that's right. This number is right as rain, 7.5. All right, people are kind of blanching. Oh, Mississippi State lost. Oh, Florida's coming in. They're coming in with Felipe Franks. Mississippi State for $1,000, minus 7.5. How do you like them apples?
I like them a lot because I'm going to kick your butt on this. You're saying how much on this game?
$1,000 on
$1,000 on Mississippi State, and you're giving me 7.5?
I certainly am.
All right, now you just changed my mind. I wish
it was higher.
I'm going to go 1,500, Joe. I'm going to go 1,500. I'm taking Florida and the 7.5. This will be where the men and the boys are separated, okay? Just remember, Joe, I try to tell you this, all right? All right, there you go. Just remember. Tell Bert to write that down, those 2 big games. The 2 SEC games will be the reason I'll be on top of you next week, and I guess I am this week. And when you're ready,
let me leave you with this.
Yes,
and
Joe.
Let me leave you with this.
Please do.
To quote a phrase that once was used by my old college football idol, Darrell Royal of the University of Texas, in describing one of his opponents, Florida, to me, is as ordinary as every day's wash.
Goodbye, Joe. Go to Las Vegas.
Nothing special about them.
Goodbye, Joe. I'll talk to you at your show next week. Thank you.
All right. Okay.
Joe Williams unloading, not quoting Darrell Royal for crying out loud. My word. While I do this, I'm going to call friends, and I'm going to remind you about our friends at Red Star Medical Research, who do just a great job of sponsoring our programs and in our community. The clinical research they do speaks to the very health questions of what we have here in our hometowns, and they do first-class work. It's a first-class facility. The information they obtain goes to biomedical companies and pharmaceutical companies to be able to treat fibromyalgia, to be able to take all the ills we're worried about in terms of dementia, Alzheimer's, psoriasis, etc. So if you're not familiar with this company, you should know, because they are a company that does terrific things in our community, and their research is very, very it's empirical evidence, what they use to make decisions on clinical research studies. So regulated by the FDA. So go online and check them out. Go to Renstar.net and look them up. Or if you want to be a part of this, call Ocala 352-6950-800 and say, I'd like to see if I qualify for the clinical trials. I think they'll pay some travel expenses or something, and they'd love to hear from you. Their offices are downtown. Joe Sorrentino, my good friend, and Mary Brantley are the main proprietors, and they do a great job of sponsoring our WinStar Star of the Week, as you see on our screen right here. Ocala Quarterback Club's Scott Brantley Trophy, and the Player of the Week this week is C.J. Strange. So thank you for that. WinStar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. Okay, it's time on a football Friday. Hope your day is going well. I'm looking forward to mine weekend. I'm going to get right back here and after a nice lunch with my friend Matt. We're going to be watching golf this afternoon, football tonight. Man, I can't wait. It's going to be a terrific weekend. We need to talk to the Iron Duke, though, and get his take on what's going on here. Because, let's face it, he's the Iron Duke, right? Hope you're doing well on this football Friday, and you're enjoying yourself. I haven't checked the results recently of what's going on here, but I do think that Americans are leading. Joe seems to be indisposed. Excuse me. Franz seems to. You're trying to reach is currently unavailable. Okay. Well, Franz is not available. We will do that. All right. All right, Franz, this is us calling you, buddy. The Iron Duke. So if you get this message, call us back. I appreciate it. All right. Franz may have been indisposed because he's had some illnesses in the family, and they haven't been able to. He's been taking them to the doctors and what have you. So, Franz Beard, we'll check with him momentarily. We did in fact have a chance to talk to Franz earlier in the week. All right, your thoughts. Let me get some of your thoughts now. This gives me a chance to stop for a second and say good morning to all you people. Thanks very much. Anthony Huggins wants to make a comment about David Reese. I can't say I disagree with this. I think this is a big, big week for David Reese. Really emerging as one of our favorite players, not just because his father is on here with us quite often, but also because he has just made such a big difference in that defense. Now, you got a lot going there. Mississippi State's offensive line is going to be difficult for him to knife through. They're probably going to chip him a lot. They're going to let him run free. But I think he is going to force the Mississippi State defense to do things, the offense that it doesn't want to do necessarily. And Reese's leadership on that team, you're right. I agree. Anthony, he is a hell of a linebacker. So if he steps up and plays well on defense, Nick Fitzgerald might not be having a great day. So really appreciate nice comments like Jim Harris is here. He was very kind to saying that we have a good show. We do try hard, and we try to do it through our guest primarily. Right now, indisposed Franz Beard. We may or may not get Franz. He'll call us back if he can. Also, you folks getting fired up like Vanessa. Good Go Gators. Jerry Battagliano also. Also, I think Jake Allen is just as excited as you are.
Look who's here.
So, we're going to see. We have a guest coming in, I understand. We'll find out. Franz Beard was with me 10 years ago, right there when Tim Tebow made his promise. We were sitting side by side. We still talk about it. For the comment regarding the shirts, the circle shirts, and I have a guest that just walked in the door. I have to stop right now and say hello to my friend Tom Ingram, who's checking in. Look at this. Look at you, buddy. Good to see you.
You got the right attire on.
Yes, this is a surprise. Tom Ingram has been down in South America and involved with the remote program. Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you.
Yeah, so this is a surprise. I expected Franz Beard, and I got Tom Ingram.
Is that better or worse?
No, it's good. It's always good to see you, buddy. We put the camera up just a little bit. You could pull a chair in there if you want. And you won't be able to hear much, but you'll be able to talk. Come talk to me a second. Pull that chair in while we do this. And I want to tell folks about, I should tell them about Center State Bank. That'd be a good place to start. Center State Bank, of course, centered on community and public service. We talk about them all the time as a place we like to go because they are heavily involved in the community. And this guy here is one of the reasons. Beautiful building that he built, actually. We had our quarterback club meeting out there recently. and we loved it. The wife of head coach Dan Mullen was there, and we had the opportunity to bring out about 135, 40 people at least to see that. And that's a beautiful building. I love that building. It reminds me of Tara from Gone to Win. But beyond that, the fact that they also are a pretty good bank. You should check that out. They're driven by their core values, which are locally decided here. They have a long-term horizon on their finances. World-class service and relationship banking is all a big part of that. And also they believe in faith and family in terms of their core values. So you might not know this. This is a pretty large organization. 82 locations, probably more by now, in 30 Florida counties, some of them in South Florida and South Georgia as well. Again, centered on community and customer service. My location is right here on Silver Spring Boulevard, where I go. I love the cookies, the milk. I love the service. You'll love it, too. You can call them at 352-368-6800 if you want to see about signing up for an account, or go by and say hello. Tell them Buddy Martin sent you. Remember, Center State Bank, centered on community and customer service. So, Thomas, come on in here, buddy.
Man.
This is a pleasure.
That was a great commercial, by the way.
Well, thank you. That's a great bank, thanks to you. And we've been missing you. Tom went away here recently. Tom's a big Gator fan, close personal friends with Ron Zook. Come on over. Close personal friends with Ron Zook, and you hired Ron Zook for a while. Step in that mic and talk to him.
Oh, yeah. In fact, I just spoke with Ron a few minutes ago, and he's doing great. He's in Green Bay, and he was able to transition from his banking career and back into professional college football, and has been with the Green Bay Packers for, I think, going on his 4th season now. So he's doing very well there, and they've got some challenges, as anybody that's following professional football can see. Aaron, I think, is just still hobbling around, and the key to their success is having him healthy. So
you're taking the credit in case the Packers do well. His banking training is what made him a better coach.
I think so. Yeah, I think he would agree with that.
Yeah, for sure.
And anybody that got a chance to work with him when he was here, when we were Gateway Bank, he did some really cool things for us that we were able to share with our customers. I think we had John Gruden here for luncheon one day that was something that we'll never forget.
That was special that day.
It was, and we had a lot of the high school football coaches in on Fridays to talk about their teams and about the upcoming games and so forth. So it was a lot of fun. I think Ron enjoyed it, and I would consider his banking career very successful in the short period of time that he was in it.
Well, we talked about you the other night at the Quarterback Club, a place, we have missed you this year, your leadership in the Quarterback Club. And it was the captain, Captain Todd Duffy, who talked about how we were able last year to do so many great things at our club. And he credited you with part of you're getting behind the Quarterback Club and getting people fired up. And so we miss you, man. We need your leadership. When are you coming back?
I'll be back. I'm back now, but I'll be back.
Just
officially
for the weekend, right?
November 5th I got a flight from Mexico City to Orlando, and looking forward to it. But it's nice to get a little. I sure miss everybody, and it was nice to come back and say hello. I was at the bank a little earlier, and I got to say hello to a lot of folks I hadn't seen in a long time, and it was great.
A couple of guys who helped also with the club. I want to recognize Dr. Frank Ken and Danny Williams, who were our champions and did a great job for us. And this is something we had Chris Doring on Wednesday. You missed a really good program. And next week we have the Stetson coach, your old town there.
DeLand. Delightful DeLand.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting. So,
the Stetson, is it still the guy that started the program?
Same guy, yeah.
He's great.
Yeah, you won't be in town. We'll tell you all about it. All right, so this is a football show. It's Football Friday. People want to talk about football. You're a big Gator fan, have been. You've been following from afar what the Gators are doing?
I've as best I can. Is their football in South America is different than
round ball.
Yeah, they have a round ball, and but we were able to convince a couple of the local establishments to
put Gator games on.
Well, we had
in Bogota.
In Bogota, they actually have. There was two Hooters in Bogota, and we got the NFL games, and then we were able to through the phone be able to watch some of the college football through the ESPN Play app, and so I got to watch. Fortunately, I watched the Tennessee game and not the Kentucky game.
Yes, yes.
I love what I.
Well, what did you think of the game? Fun to watch Tennessee.
It was even more fun because we had my Australian friend who's in our program his family's from Tennessee, so he was a big Tennessee fan. So we had a nice friendly rival there, and No, it was I think better than everybody expected, and either we're getting better or Tennessee's just really bad, and we beat the dog out of them.
That was a nice game for it was early lead, get up 26-3, and you kind of coast in there and watch these takeaways are amazing. And I like the old school mentality about the takeaways.
Mm-hmm.
Miami's got this turnover chain stuff, and other schools have this backpacks and all this stuff. And the Florida program is no chains, no backpacks, just takeaways. And they lead the nation in takeaways, which is something that's
great.
I know a lot of people focus on things like quarterback and Felipe Franks, etc. They don't quite get the fact that there are other things in the game. Quarterback's important. As long as the quarterback doesn't lose it for you, does his job, your defense, your special teams, and takeaways can make a big, as we saw last week. Now,
absolutely.
This week,
look at Tampa Bay. I mean, that's what lost the game for them Monday night.
It did. Sure did. A big pick there, for sure. So, all right, so you haven't been up. You won't get a chance to see the Gators play until later in the year, right?
Right. I'm looking for tickets. If anybody can help me out there, I'd love to
South
go.
Carolina?
Preferably Skybox. But
see, he's used to setting up the Bo Gators section. I can get you in the game for South Carolina, but you'll be slumming down with me and the rest of my place from G&K down in the end zone, okay? So it's like from up here to down there, pal. Not all of us can do skyboxes, all right?
No, I'm just kidding about that. But because I've been I haven't missed many games since I was 13 years old, so this is the longest streak that I've had of not going to any Gator games. So
yeah,
I'll be ready when I get back in November.
Well, we'll look forward to having you. So good to have you. So what a surprise to see you home today. You mentioned you might be coming home, but you didn't say it would be today. And so glad to see you, and it'll be fun time to have you back when you get back here.
Looking forward to it.
Will you be living at the lake again, or do you know?
I hope so.
Okay.
I got people renting my house right now. Hopefully I'll come back and be ready.
Tom Ingram, who's bleeds orange and blue, mentored Ron Zook in banking, and now takes all the credit for the success Zook has in Green Bay. So good to see you, my man.
Yeah, same here.
And stick around. I'm going to close the program out, and we'll catch up, all right?
Okay. Yep.
Tom
Enjoyed
Ingram.
it.
All right.
Bye.
See ya. All right. I want to tell you for a moment about our friends at Tupperware. Jen Lay, that would be, who does a terrific job there with Tupperware. If you don't know about this, you probably need to catch up, because this is something, it's an old school thing. It's still it's a secret, still a good secret. So check it out. Go to jenlay.mytupperware.com. Order something like this if you like pressure cookers. If not, there are plenty of things that you can get there online, and they have gift lists, what have you. So there's your one of your suggested products. Good way to tailgate, get Tupperware. Again, go to jenlay.mytupperware.com and check out her catalog. All right, we're going to see if we can reach Francis again. He was apparently waylaid there. See if we can get back to some football talk with Franz. Franz says he's there, but he's not answering, so I don't know if we're not getting him on the right. Oh, all right. Looks like it might be Francis checking in. All right. Let's see if we can catch up with the Iron Duke. He's been busy. A lot of family stuff going on. And that appears to be the Iron Duke right there, who's out and about today. There he is right there. Francis, good morning to you.
I am Iron.
Are you there?
I am currently Iron Duking. Yes, I am.
You're Iron Duking, huh? Nice. So where are you, my friend?
I am in Eustis, Florida.
Eustis, Florida. All right. I guess you're visiting family, obviously. There you are.
Taking care of some family matters.
Yeah.
I'm getting ready to go in a house now where it's air conditioned and I can talk better.
All right. Thanks for joining us. I know things you've been busy with your family. How is your family, by the way? Your stepfather, your mom, and your sister, and a lot of things you're having to take care of medically. I call them friends, Iron Duke Medevac, all the people you've been taking into the Veterans Hospital and what have you, and hope everybody's okay, friends. I don't think friends.
Well, everybody's getting there. It's never easy. But it's always a process. And guess what?
France, we're having a hard time getting you. I don't know if they're going to be able to hear you inside the house there. I don't believe because you're breaking up on us. So you may have to step out the door just for a second to catch up and give us your take on Mississippi State, Florida.
Let me call you back in a minute.
All right, I'll stand by for a second. Okay. All right, we'll get in and see if we can call us back there. Brandon Beard's taking care of family matters down in Houston this morning on the Football Friday. Time for me also to tell you about a couple of our friends. I want to be sure and remind you about Daniel L. Hightower, lawyer fighting for accident victim justice since 1976.
Daniel L. Hightower, PA lawyer, is a law firm that's committed to client service, legal excellence, treating clients with dignity and respect.
Good afternoon, Law Office of Daniel Hightower. How may I help you?
And ultimately helping them recover a just result.
We work with many clients who are injured, whether it's on the job, in a car accident, on another person's property.
Good to see both of you.
In the reception area, they know you by name.
When clients first come in to see me, one of my jobs is to earn their respect and trust.
Now, and see if we can catch up with our buddy Franz, who's now checking in once again from down in Houston. Eustis, I'm sorry. The Iron Duke, I think, now is prepared and ready to go and talk. Hello, Francis.
Hello there.
All right, this is a little bit better. We'll get you, if we get you to put the camera on you instead of the ceiling, we'll be all right.
Well, let's see what I can do about that.
All right, while you're doing that, I see you now. Yeah, we got you now. Good. We've been going over the schedule for the week, and it's been two interesting games there, I think, that we want to talk about. The one that will have a big impact on the SEC, probably not the premier games in the country, but ones that you certainly would like to watch, especially from the perspective of the Florida Gators. That Kentucky-South Carolina game is going to mean a great deal to teams in the East, and of course we know what's at stake on Saturday night in Starkville, 6 p.m. kick. Give us your take on that game.
Well, I think Florida has to do what Kentucky did last week, and that's the old Al McGuire theory. You cut the head off the steak. Florida has got to attack Nick Fitzgerald and make him ordinary. And if they do that, then the Gators, I believe, will win the football game. They also have to do a good job of controlling Jeffrey Simmons, their 300-pound nose tackle, who I think is probably going to be in the top 15 picks of the NFL draft. He is big. He's mobile. They also have to have a good game out of left tackle Martez Ivory, who's going to be on Montez Sweat, who is a ferocious pass rusher. But if they can control those things, I think the Gators are going to do well. Has to be a good decision game by Felipe Franks. I think in the last 2 weeks, buddy, we've seen a quarterback who believes he doesn't have to win the ball game. He makes plays when there's opportunities, but it's not up to him to make a play on every single play. And I think that's been the big difference. I think that's the one thing I think we've all seen out of him, and I think that's a great improvement. I think that is a great sign of progress.
Yeah, I had a good conversation. I've referred to this 4 or 5 times, and I'll refer to it again. Chris Doring, a guy we know well and obviously have a high regard for, has studied a good deal of film on the Florida thing. He's a big fan of Coach Gonzalez, as we are. He realizes, that Billy is going to do a terrific job there. But he made an observation I thought was spot on. Let's see what you think about it. He said that he noticed in looking at the film, Florida is running a lot of go routes. Now, we understand why, especially with Kadarius Toney, who's a key guy this week, by the way, and because he doesn't know how to run routes very good, and he didn't block all that great. And Chris said the thing about a go route is it doesn't give you a chance to do the back shoulder throw sometimes. It doesn't give you a chance to do things that elude the defenders, and it is really something that's really not that hard to defend. But what the hard ones are to defend
would be the square outs or the slants or the post, corner, whatever, where you stick your foot in the ground. It's a little harder for those defensive backs. And he says, when you see Felipe dropping back around and looking and not be able to make a decision, we think it's indecision. He says simply sometimes the receivers are not just open. So I thought that was interesting. Your thoughts about that?
Well, I think there's some truth to that, and but I will say this: I think there has been noticeable improvement in the receivers running correct routes. Sometimes they're not open. That's a fact of life, because sometimes people dial up the right defensive scheme. Sometimes the corner anticipates well and gets the coverage. But I'll say this: they're running the right route. And Felipe has only thrown 2 picks. He's thrown 12 touchdown passes. I think we'll take a 6-to-1 touchdown pass interception ratio any day of the week. And I think that as long as Felipe understands that you can't throw the ball into coverage, that when you get outside the pocket, you can always throw the ball away. He did that 4 times last week. He was 9 for 18 passing. But he had 4 of his passes were throwaways when he got out the pocket. So those are things maybe we wouldn't normally count them as a real pass attempt. So say 9 for 14 in true pass attempts where he's actually looking for a receiver. That's a sign of maturity on his part. And you're right about the receivers. Sometimes they're just not open. And it's a matter of getting I think the coaching staff is having to figure out what can guys run against certain defenses and against certain defensive backs. It's not like this coaching staff has had, a couple of years with these guys. They've only had a few months, and they're still trying to figure things out too. And I think that's something that's overlooked.
All right, we only got a couple minutes, France, because we got a little late start, but I want to get to the story we've talked about many, many times. But yesterday was a special anniversary, 10 years of Tim Tebow, the promise. He'll be here next week, apparently, I'm told, by Paul Finebaum, for obviously the Ring of Honor, and also SEC Nation, and Laura and the whole team will be here. We've discussed many times how you, myself, and Brendan were there that day when Tebow said that, and we were about 10, 12 feet away. You and I were in the front row.
That may be less than that. It was
Could
close.
be. It was not far. and we looked at each other when it was over and said, wow. And I said to you, I have never seen anything quite like that. Now, we didn't know what was to come, and as somebody said, Brendan was on last night. Brendan shot his great vintage footage, which he's got up online now and it's gotten 30,000 or so hits on it, the original shot of Tebow saying this. And Brendan said, I shuddered because I was a little bit worried about his statement and whether that would what was going to happen the rest of the way. But the bottom line was, the thing about the promise is, you got to remember there's the words that follow that, they delivered. And that's what makes it so significant. So your memory of that real briefly, and any takeaways that you haven't talked about on Tim Tebow's promise.
Well, it was reach out and touch somebody, because we were that close to him, and you could see the emotion. You could see that he had been, it just absolutely, emotionally wrecked by this, and you could hear it in his voice. This is a 6'3", 240-pound man. I mean, a man. He may have only been 21 years old at the time, but he was a man. He's always been a man, and he was just absolutely just destroyed emotionally by this, and to have the guts to come up there and say it. And we saw that the next week because we made a road trip to Vietnam, and we saw the Gators just absolutely take Arkansas apart. And that was the first game. And I remember on the way back from Arkansas, we drove back to the airport in Tulsa. Our hotel was at the airport in Tulsa. And we were talking about it on the way that if this is what we're going to expect the rest of the way, this Florida team is going to be just fine. And they were. They were on a mission. As the Blues Brothers said, they were on a mission from God.
There you go. Friends, I'm glad we caught up with you. It's going to be an interesting weekend. We'll talk about the South Carolina-Kentucky game and Florida Mississippi on our show Monday night, which you'll be on. We'll catch up on that stuff. And all the best to you and your family. Love the hat. I'm going to go watch some Ryder Cup now. It's getting interesting. So there he is, the Iron Duke, Franz Barrett. Frank and Francis, take care, buddy. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. You too.
All right, that's Franz Barrett checking in with us there on the final couple of minutes. We want to get Franz in there and remind your folks, by the way, that they can all your fans, your friends, they can catch this show on the replay. So even though we were a little long and we got here, so I want to thank everybody for watching and listening. Appreciate your time and your comments. We will be back on Monday night. This show will live up here for a while. If something really major happens, we may or may not see you over the weekend. But meanwhile, thanks for a good football Friday, and thanks for watching and for listening.